Lesson 68, Algebraic Addition. So before we get into the adding part, I want to talk about like a little review about what opposites are. So I know that I taught you before, opposites are two numbers that have the same absolute value. So for instance, 3 and -3 are both the same distance from 0. So if you add those together, you're going to get 0. And -1 and 1, those are opposites. When we do algebraic addition, all we do is we imagine that we are adding every single number. So when you see 7 minus 2, we don't look at it as subtraction, we look at it adding a -2. So what we do is we just look at each number as if they were signed numbers, and then we put a plus sign between them. So we put the 7, then we're going to put a plus sign, and in parentheses we'll put a -2. And then we add the 7 and the -2. So if you remember, we learned this a couple lessons ago, where if you had teams of positives and negatives, there's 7 people on the positive team, 2 people on the negative team, the positives win by 5. So they have 5 more players than the other one. So this is going to equal 5, which you can do that in your head. Another example is you look at these as signed numbers. So you have -3 in parentheses, then we're going to add, and we have to keep the sign with the 1, add a -1. So on the negative team we have 3 players, and then we add another player. So we have 4 players on the negative team, so it'd be -4. One thing that I've taught students in the past is if you see subtract, don't break your back, because adding is so much easier. Add the opposite. So here's an example. If we had -5 minus a -6 plus a -1. So in this case, we want to add a -6. So when you see subtract, if you wanted to, we could say we're going to add the opposite of -6, which is +6. I've heard teachers say, like, okay, if you have 2 signs, you think of the words hate and love. When you see negative, you think of hate. So if this is hate, someone hates, to hate, then they love, right? If you hate to hate, then you love. So this would change to a plus. Is that so confusing? I'll show some more examples on that one. Yes?
So this guy have a chart for this?
Oh no, that was for multiplying. Yep. Now we're adding. This is called algebraic addition. So we're adding, and on the negative team, we have -5, 1 more joins, so -6, and then we add a +6. Both teams have the same amount, so the answer would be 0. So 7 minus -3. So if we see subtract, don't break our back, we're going to add the opposite of -3. And so then you have 10. So when you have, say, 2 signs together, if you have a plus, a negative number, okay? If you love to hate, then it stays negative, okay? Right? Because if you love to hate, then you hate, and we keep that number negative. If you have a negative plus sign, hate to love. So you're going to add the opposite, or you're going to change it to a negative. So it would be equal, can I do this, or will it be, it's going to be adding a negative number. Should I put letters in there or anything, or is this like so confusing? I'm going to show with examples too, but this is just the hate to love scenario. And if you love to love, it's just going to be plus. And if it's hate to hate, then you want to change it to plus a positive. Because when you hate to hate, then you love. Okay, so let's do this really quick.
Do like the negative 5 and the negative 6 plus negative 1.
Yeah.
Can't you just do like 5 plus 6 is
1. Negative 5 plus 6.
yeah, but you do that and then you put the negative sign by it.
No, and that's where you're going to get confused. It's kind of like this. Okay, this might be helpful or not. If it's not helpful, don't listen. So like you have 5 on your negative team, right? And you have 6 on your negative team, but you're taking away 6 from the negative team.
Would be negative 1.
Oh, so then it's negative 1 because, no, then it's a positive 1 because here's what happened. You have a negative 5, and then of those negative 5, you're taking away 6 of them. So 6 people from the team of 5 goes over to the
I thought it was addition.
positive team. Yeah. That doesn't make, that's not making sense to me
Just
even,
like
so let's not do that way.
3 minus 5 is negative.
So if I have like a negative 3 plus a negative 4, because that first sign is a plus, we just leave it and we get a negative 7. This one, if we had a minus a positive, so negative 3 minus a positive 4, we want to change it to a plus a negative. So we want to change it to this. So we have negative 3 plus a negative 4,
I know how to get it. It's just
which is
that
also a negative
'cause
7.
I thought that's subtraction.
Then if we had a minus a negative number, so let's say we had a negative 3 minus a negative 4, we want to change it to a plus a positive. So we're going to change this negative 3 plus positive 4, and that's going to equal positive 1. So these two symbols right here are the ones that are in the middle.
Subtraction's the thing that
The subtraction is the one that's the hardest. And that's why I say if you see subtract, don't break your back, add the opposite. So here's subtract, we're going to add the opposite of negative 4. So we're going to add a positive 4. If you see a minus, don't break your back, add the opposite. So I'm going to add the opposite of positive 4, which is adding a negative 4. So it's coming, and we're going to do some practice. This is the end of the lesson.